to health and disability benefits will lead to increased poverty, including severe poverty.
Yeah. We've published a line-by-line account of that £22 billion that the previous government left. We are now growing the economy. Not, first of all, hear the previous interview of the Chief Secretary, and so the question to me was put about pocket money.
And if the public buy into the idea that you're the person or the woman to sort it out, which enough of them did, when she was using the phrase.
When Rachel Reeves stood at the dispatch box yesterday, the usual government benches behind her were notably silent. No supportive nods, no reassuring murmurs, just uncomfortable glances and awkward shuffling as she delivered what many are calling the most tone-deaf remarks from a Chancellor in recent memory. What followed was a rare sight in British politics, a forced apology that came too late to stem the tide of outrage sweeping across social media and news outlets.
What do you make of Reeves' "there is no alternative" line?
I don't think it's a clever thing to say. I think
it's not a right analogy, and apologies have already been made.
The political damage was already done, with opposition MPs and even members of her own party questioning whether someone so disconnected from reality should be in charge of the nation's finances. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video.
Reeves' economic incompetence is mind-blowing.
It's quite a punchy title, but you know, then again, it's true. You know, and the irony is,
0.2%. Obviously, you highlighted the fact that their growth forecast has halved from 2% to 1%.
The moment Rachel Reeves uttered the phrase "pocket money in Parliament," you could feel the atmosphere shift. The Chancellor of the Exchequer, speaking about benefits and support payments, had just inadvertently struck a match in a room full of political dynamite. Her exact words comparing government support for vulnerable citizens to pocket money echoed through the chamber with devastating clarity. The parliamentary setting, usually divided along strict party lines, suddenly unified in collective disbelief.
No longer enough, if it ever was, for government to turn a blind eye to where things are made or who is making them.
That is a lady who has an economics degree, PPE, Politics, Philosophy and Economics from Oxford.
Within seconds, the benches erupted. MPs who moments earlier had been scrolling through phones or shuffling papers now sat bolt upright, expressions ranging from shock to unbridled anger. The Chancellor's analogy didn't merely cross a political line, it bulldozed through a fundamental boundary of respect for those struggling under the weight of Britain's cost of living crisis.
Through our National Wealth Fund, our planning reform, our pensions reform, as well as reforming our public services so that we can deliver for the people we came in here to represent.
And a Master's in Economics from the London School of Economics. So she must know something about economics. Everything we do should be to maximise the best...
The comparison of essential survival funds to children's pocket money landed like a slap across the face of millions who depend on those payments. The immediate reaction in the House was extraordinary. Conservative MPs, naturally poised to criticise their Labour opponents, found themselves joined by visible discomfort from Reeves' own colleagues. Several Labour MPs could be seen shifting awkwardly, eyes downcast, as opposition members rose to their feet in protest. The chamber, normally a battleground of opposing ideologies, temporarily transformed into a united front of incredulity, with members foaming at the mouth as if Reeves had insulted the Queen's corgis.
Chief Secretary to the Treasury has apologised for the clumsy language that he used. As promised, we will extend the energy profits levy on oil and gas producers to invest in homegrown energy here in Britain.
What made this particular comment touch such a raw nerve? Political analyst Dr. Emma Harrington suggests it wasn't merely the words themselves, but their timing. Britain sits at a critical economic juncture where millions are choosing between heating and eating. In this context, diminishing benefits to pocket money reveals a profound disconnect that transcends typical political gaffes. The comment exposed what many perceived as the underlying elitism of a government promising to understand ordinary struggles. Reeves's background compounds this perception problem. Her Oxford economics degree and London School of Economics masters, impressive credentials by any standard, suddenly transformed from qualifications to evidence of detachment.
The same comments, but the analogy of comparing pocket money and personal independence payments is clearly not right. Did not fund. And their failure to assess the scale of the challenges facing our public services means that this budget raises taxes.
Her academic understanding of economics appeared to critics as theoretical knowledge divorced from lived experience. Previous statements where she had emphasised fiscal responsibility now seemed recontextualised, not as necessary economic prudence, but as potential indifference to human suffering. Former chancellors have certainly made serious missteps. George Osborne faced backlash for his bedroom tax, and Philip Hammond's tone-deaf comments about disability employment raised eyebrows. But parliamentary historians struggle to recall an instance where a chancellor's single remark generated such immediate cross-spectrum condemnation. What distinguishes Reeves's gaffe is how efficiently it undermined her party's carefully constructed image as champions of working people. The controversy exploded beyond Westminster within minutes. Social media platforms became a volcanic landscape of public outrage, with hashtags demanding Reeves's resignation trending almost immediately. One particularly damaging viral tweet juxtaposed Reeves's Oxford graduation photo against images of food banks, garnering over 50,000 retweets in just 2 hours. Another highlighted her annual salary alongside the average universal credit payment, creating a stark visual representation of the disconnect her words had revealed.
The unlocking of house building, 14,000 new homes in a variety of places, in Worcester and Sutton Coldfield, and in Liverpool, for example. So
the budget came out at the end of October, and I was very struck by the difference between the report that the Office for Budget Response.
Political commentator James Thorndike noted, "We've seen political gaffes go viral before, but the speed and intensity of this backlash is unprecedented in British political social media." Former supporters publicly distanced themselves, while opposition figures seized the opportunity to question the sincerity of Labour's entire economic platform. The incident rapidly evolved from a momentary slip into what analysts were calling one of the biggest self-inflicted disasters in recent political history. The parliamentary reaction proved historic in its unanimity. Conservative Shadow Chancellor Michael Harrington abandoned his prepared questions to address the elephant trampling through the room. Several Labour backbenchers visibly winced as he spoke, their body language communicating volumes about internal party tensions. The SNP's economic spokesperson formally requested an immediate point of order, requiring the Speaker to intervene as the chamber threatened to descend into chaos.
We've published a line-by-line account of that £22 billion that the previous government left. We are now growing the economy. Not, first of all, hear the previous interview of the Chief Secretary, and so the question to me was put about pocket money.
What truly demonstrated the gravity of the situation was the unprecedented speed with which party leadership intervened. Within 40 minutes, the Prime Minister's communications director had been spotted hurriedly entering the chamber, note in hand. Shortly thereafter, Reeves was observed receiving what appeared to be hastily written guidance from the front bench, a public display of crisis management rarely witnessed in parliamentary proceedings. When Reeves finally addressed the growing storm, her initial response only compounded the problem. Rather than offering an unequivocal apology, she attempted to contextualise her remark, suggesting it had been misinterpreted and taken out of its proper context. This defensive posture, rather than quelling the controversy, poured additional fuel onto an already raging fire. Opposition members immediately seized upon this qualified non-apology with shouts of "Withdraw!" echoing through the chamber.
And I recognise the difficulties that my right honourable friend is facing in terms of fiscal challenges and
This controversy goes beyond a mere parliamentary hiccup. It exposes the fragility of political capital in our digital age. While Reeves may have apologised, the true test lies ahead as Parliament reconvenes. MPs aren't simply moving on, they're just getting warmed up, with upcoming sessions certain to subject her statements to intense scrutiny. The incident raises profound questions about Reeves's judgment and the government's sensitivity to everyday struggles. For Labour, this represents a potential credibility crisis that could undermine their economic messaging for months. As the political theatre unfolds, one thing is certain: the backlash will continue, potentially reshaping policy debates and parliamentary votes.